I'm a dude, and I'm inviting you to join me on a podcast about brews.
Does that include stouts?
Yes, of course it includes stouts. Like I was saying, join us every Saturday on the journey into...
Wait a minute. Do you guys do anything about like IPAs?
Yes,
like that?
yes, we do IPAs.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, join us on the Journey into Comics Network for Brews with Dudes.
Whoa, hey, have you guys ever... Do you care if I bring some Zima on?
Yes, I care if you bring Zima. Zima doesn't count. Zima's... Dr. Dongo. Anyway, join us every Saturday for a podcast that delves into the craft brew world.
The following
is a
Journey into Comics.
Journey into Comics.
It's a journey into comics.
Journey into Comics.
Journey into comics.
Journey into Comics.
Network.
Production.
Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Kids for Sale podcast. I am your host, Chris, and with me tonight is a very special guest that I've been teasing for a few episodes now. I know a couple people have already said how excited they are to hear this episode when I record with you, but welcome.
Live up to the hype.
Welcome, my mom, Mary Bean. How are you today?
I'm good, and I know I can't live up to the hype, but okay.
Oh, you're definitely going to be fine. I don't have that big of an audience, so really you just don't have to let down like 3 people.
Okay, so
I think you can.
So
handle
Larry
that, right?
and
actually Larry, I don't think listens to this, but he, when he found out that you were going to be on it, he might actually check this episode out because he loves you. So
okay,
but yeah, we've been teasing that you were going to be my first guest. So I'm excited that we can finally make this happen. We've been trying for a few weeks and it just hasn't worked out time-wise. Which is the same reason Ashley's like quitting the show now, because we just time-wise it's just hard to line up. So
So she's quitting the show.
she'll be back every once in a while, but she's not my permanent co-host anymore. Oh. So it's just me by my lonesome for a while. But I think now
Chris with all his friends.
Excuse me. I just like inhaled some pop right before we started recording, so I'm going to be like hacking through the episode. But what was I going to say?
About her not being...
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure you were my first guest. I've got other people that want to come on and be guests, but I wanted you to be my first. So now that you're my first guest and we're getting this guest episode out of the way, I feel like I can have a new guest hopefully every other week, and I won't have to worry about a co-host. I'll still have somebody to talk to instead of having to talk by myself. You're not going to have to sit
here and talk to yourself.
Well, I did that for one episode, and I was only able to make it like 35 minutes, and it was like, I don't think anybody's going to want to hear this, but it was okay. But, oh man, we're both clipping all over the place already.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
It's a technical term that you don't have to worry about. I just need to worry about adjusting my microphones. So, first, I guess... God damn it. The first thing, I guess, just kind of catch everybody up on the last couple weeks with the kids, just because that's how we start every episode. And... like we were just talking about right before I started recording, it's not like you don't know my kids, so feel free to interject if there's something you want to add to
I've
this.
met them, yeah.
Yeah, a few times, right? Mm-hmm. Mark's football team, I think this was right after the last episode. Mark's football team lost a game. I think the last episode we were talking about how they were still undefeated and they had outscored their opponents 140-something points to 13.
But you don't really count that when they're in Little League. Or not in Little League. Oops, sorry.
Pop Warner.
Pop Warner.
Well, in his age, it does matter.
Oh, they do count.
Yeah, because the playoffs start in a couple weeks, and if they go through the playoffs and they win state, they could be invited to play in a tournament in Orlando.
Ooh, so well, then I get to go.
The points matter in his age, which is crazy. Like this is the first, like, most competitive thing we've been involved in so far. I mean, his baseball team was pretty competitive too. But not like this. This is a whole nother level. But yeah, so right after the last episode when we were bragging about his team being undefeated, they lost their next game.
That's what you get.
It was a good game. The team they played against was very good. They played against Portage. And they had one kid on their team that just, I think he scored all their points, and he was just unstoppable, like the fastest kid on the field. And we have a kid like that too that scores probably 90% of our points, but this kid was just, I mean, nobody could tackle him, nobody could get in front of him even. Just it was a mess. But they didn't. It's
And
not
these
like,
are first and second graders, or what? What is the age?
It's 7, 8, and 9-year-olds
Okay.
from like 75 pounds to 115 pounds.
Oh, they
or
do have
something.
a weight thing. Okay.
Yeah,
well, that's good.
that's a safety thing.
Well, that's good. Yeah, because they could hurt somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, there was a kid on Mark's team, a friend of ours, their son Gavin. It's his first year playing also, but he's I think 9 already. So the only thing stopping him from going up to the next division was his weight.
His weight.
So he had to cut weight at the beginning of the season just to make sure he made the official weigh-in for the beginning of the season.
Really?
Because otherwise, the kids the next level up are so much more aggressive than these kids are.
Oh,
Because
crap.
in Mark's age, he's in what's called Mighty Mites. There's only one division under his, which is Tiny Mites. Which the Tiny Mites, it's hysterical watching the Tiny Mites on the field. They don't keep score in Tiny Mites, but Mark's age is the first one where they do keep score. And they're learning the fundamentals of the game. They're learning pass plays. They're learning, they're learning plays in general. It's not just like, here, hand this kid the ball, he's going to run with it. It's like, here's your route. These are the guys you need to run between. The blockers need to push this way, and it gets a little more involved. But the next step up is junior peewees, and the coach for the junior peewee team is intense. Like, they practice right next to us on some days, and you just hear him screaming the whole time.
Really?
God dang it, I said do this.
Are
You better
you
run
serious?
it. Yeah.
Oh, now see, I think that's too much.
But you know what?
I don't agree with that kind of crap.
The kids respond to it, though.
I'm sure they do, but I don't like that stuff.
That's
If you will vaguely remember, you had some baseball coaches
well,
at one point that were like that.
Well, that's because Coach Midkiff.
I wasn't going to name any names, but there were a couple of coaches.
I promise he's not listening.
Well,
to this.
there were a couple of coaches in particular that I remember a lot of the parents getting really ticked off because they were really, really hard on you guys, and I felt it was a little ridiculous.
Coach Midkiff was at one point the Pop Warner coach.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So he had that football mentality that he brought to the baseball field, and
Which wasn't necessary.
I didn't like it because I, up to that point, was not used to that. Now, Coach Bales, who was Mark's...
The athletic director.
He was Mark's assistant coach because
Yeah.
his son was Mark's coach.
Yeah.
Coach Bales was like that too sometimes, to a certain extent. He was a little intense, but he used his intensity to kind of get the point into our heads. Coach Midkiff just seemed like he was
a hothead.
He was just mean for the sake of being
And
mean.
I just remember him just screaming at you guys when you were out on the field, and it was
Yeah.
like, and what is that doing besides embarrassing those kids that are out on the field? But
I remember, and I'll never forget this. I was not that bad at baseball, but I also wasn't that great. There was one time that I was playing for Coach Midkiff, and I hit the ball out to, shallow left field or something, let's say. It was a single, a base hit single. There was nobody on. So there was nobody running ahead of me. And I got to first base, and my first base coach, which may have been Coach Midkiff, I don't remember, was telling me, stop, stop, stop. But the throw came in from left field. They overthrew the first baseman, and I saw it go past the first baseman. So I took off and went to second. Even though the coach was telling me stop, I took off and went to second because I saw the overthrow and I knew I could make it. So the first baseman scoops up the ball. He throws it to the second baseman, misses the second baseman, and goes back out into the outfield. I take off for third base.
I think I remember that.
The outfielder picks up the ball,
Yeah.
throws it to third base, misses the third baseman.
I remember that.
So I
Yeah, I
run
remember
home.
that.
I got an in-the-park home run on a lazy single.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
instead of cheering me on or anything, I get back to the dugout and the coach says, you're going to have to run laps on Monday because we told you to stop.
And you said, "You're welcome."
Yeah, it's like, way to just kill any chance I ever had of overachieving in my life, you know.
Well, I do have to say, though, I also have very vivid memories of you when you were playing baseball, just standing in the outfield and spitting on the ground and
that's where you
kicking the
learn to
dirt, kicking the dirt where you spit to make mud, and that's pretty much what you were doing when the balls were being hit or not hit by you. So it was kind of like, if something had come out by you, you would have got hit on the head because you were looking.
But that was like little league. That
was last year. I'm just saying.
when I played for Coach Midkiff, I was in.
I don't remember.
I want to say like 4th or 5th grade already at that point. So I was already understanding the game, and I was actually playing the game. I just wasn't as athletic as some of the other kids were.
You honestly weren't that interested, honestly.
By the time I got to that age, I enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
I know when I was a kid, it was not. I remember it not being that fascinating to me. But I do remember when I got to the majors was when I started having fun with the game. And then, of course, go figure, I have like the worst coach in the league. I guess I shouldn't call him the worst coach. I don't know if he was the worst coach or not. But I just didn't like him, and he really, at a point when I was actually starting to enjoy the game of baseball, he really almost smashed that into the ground for me.
Honestly, I think he smashed that for a lot of kids, and that's what all of us parents kind of were mad about.
And luckily, I know you talked to the league the next year, and you were able to get me to switch teams, which they didn't usually do that in the majors.
Right.
Once you started on one team, they made you finish on that team.
Yeah.
But, I got switched to another team, and I remember running into Coach Midkiff after that, and he was just like, "Oh, you didn't want to play for me anymore."
You said, "No, you're a jerk."
I should have.
Jerk.
I should have, except for I was like 11, so I wasn't going to say that to an adult.
And he was still a little bit taller than you, just
But anyway.
Okay, about the kids.
So Gavin didn't want to go into the junior peewees, so he cut weight before the season started, which is a lot to ask a 9-year-old to do, but he worked hard.
I can't believe. Yeah, I don't know.
He worked hard for it. He was only drinking water, and his mom was. I know it's a lot for a kid, but it's a good age to teach them discipline if that's something they want to do. It's not, by no means was it something that his mom and stepdad were like making him do. He at no point were they like, hey, you have to cut weight.
Yeah.
He did it on his own because he wanted to end up in this age group, and so he worked really hard at it, and which I think is, for a 9-year-old to have that kind of discipline, I think was great. Wow. He was, like I said, he was drinking nothing but water. He would go in the middle of summer. He would go out to the basketball court because they live right next to the basketball court at Liberty Park, and he would throw on a couple of hoodies in the summer and go play basketball so he could sweat it out.
I don't know about that. See, I don't know.
And he's whatever. You know what though? He's doing great in this age division. He's. I mean, nobody can get past him. He's
I'm a non-sporty person, so to me, it's kind of like, I don't know.
So I don't. There are some parents, and surprisingly, I wasn't sure how it was going to be with the football parents, because when you grow up in a football town, which we live in, you kind of get the impression that the football parents are like, basically like, what do they call the little girls, the pageant moms and stuff.
Yeah, that's
that's the impression you get of the football parents. Is that
I would
the
think
kids
so.
Don't even care about the game. It's the
parents are
like,
pushing
you
about
better do this, you better do.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen from the parents on Mark's team, and even on the other teams, that they all practice on the same fields at the same time, so we see all the parents there. And it's nothing but support. It's nothing but wanting the kids, and not just their kid, it's wanting all of the kids to succeed. And, there's a real good sportsmanship driven into the kids' heads, real good sense of playing for a team, not playing for themselves kind of. I really...
There's no I in team.
Honestly, it's been great. Whenever something... Mark, Mark's not the most athletic kid either. He's kind of lazy. He likes video games. He's a typical 8-year-old kid that doesn't... We've found it hard to find a sport that he really enjoys. This one he seems to really, really enjoy. He doesn't still try as hard as I think he could. But the nice thing is, whenever he does something, like he misses a block or something, and they'll pull him from the game and put somebody else in because he missed his block. Instead of getting to the sidelines and the kids are like, "Hey, you need to do this," they pat him on the back and say, "Hey, get him next time. Just try harder next time."
That's
to see at that age, to see kids doing that instead of just being like, "Hey, I'm the best player on the team and you guys can't do this." It's it's strange, but it's really nice, and that's why I've really liked him playing for this football team. I think
good.
It's a good attitude they get into these kids' heads.
Well, that's good.
So
anyway,
I've enjoyed it. Yeah. But yeah, so his team lost, but they didn't get their butts kicked or anything. It was a real close game the whole time. It honestly came down to the last 2 minutes, and they couldn't pull it out.
Yeah.
But then they turned around this last weekend and they won 45 to 10 or something like that.
Good.
So they're back on top again. Let's see, the girls, they play their last soccer game this Saturday. Which by the time this episode comes out, it'll be tomorrow, is their last soccer game. And this last game they played this past weekend, they're finally starting to try.
I just was going to say, are they liking it now?
Yeah, they're actually running around and kicking the ball around. And Livy, as ungraceful as she is, she's actually getting pretty good and coordinated with kicking the ball around.
Good.
The only thing she's afraid of, excuse me, like when there's a kid coming at her with the ball and she's on defense and she's supposed to turn the ball around and get it to go the other way, she's like a little afraid to step in front of them when they're coming at her.
Yeah, well,
so
she's afraid she's going to get kicked.
She gets
probably
off to the side and she as they're coming by, she tries to just kick it sideways or something. Which, it works, but she just needs to be a little more aggressive about it. Scarlett has the aggressive part down, but she gets bored fast because she doesn't have a very big attention span. So like. She'll be out there for a couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden she'll just be like, I don't want to do this. And,
honestly, I think it's really hard to have kids in a sport at that age because they don't have the attention span.
It is. And
they don't like to
we knew that
do anything for very long.
We knew that going in, and we've expected that, and that's why we try not to – we don't take it too hard on them when they don't participate. We at least want them to try. That's all we're asking. Like we don't say, "Hey, you better do this," and you better. It's just like, "Hey, just play for the whole 40 minutes, for the whole hour of practice. Just be out there, run around, and kick the ball. Like whether you're good at it or not, we just want you to try. That's it.
Yeah,
for an hour every couple of days.
All I have to say is, I am so glad your little sister has never been into athletics. I am thrilled that I haven't had to do this all over again. Being the fifth one, I'm so thrilled that I am not running her to a million practices and games. I have to say I don't miss any of it. And it's not that I wasn't supportive of you guys.
No,
I went to all it and drove
understand.
you guys around, but oh my God.
I dreaded when Livy was in dance class, I dreaded the recitals.
That's exactly how I felt about all the baseball games and stuff.
We talked about the recitals on this show a couple of times already, and the recitals were just a nightmare just because... Except
for the time that Livy threw her award at the curtain or whatever at the end. That was actually kind of funny.
They handed her the award at the end of the ceremony, and she just threw it down and walked away.
That was actually very funny.
That was funny.
I wish you would have got that on tape or video.
It's just like... It's that kind of stuff is frustrating when... your kid is the only one up there not doing it. Like you see 30 other kids on that stage all doing what they were taught to do, and your kid is the only one not doing it.
But realistically, if you look at her age group of kids, the ones that even were supposedly quote unquote participating, that might have been standing there and just looking starstruck the entire time, or they might have been practically in tears. There were other kids that were. Yeah. There was a little boy standing at the edge of the stage just crying.
That was a friend of ours.
That was funny, too.
Her kid.
I have to say that part was actually very funny. Her age group was hysterical, but anyway.
But yeah, so that's soccer. Soccer's almost wrapped up. I think Mark is going to be rolling into basketball here pretty soon. So we'll have that to talk about. I don't know what the girls are going to do. We discussed the idea of getting all the kids into like a taekwondo or a karate or something.
Now, do you feel you have to have them in stuff? Is that...
We want them to try a bunch of stuff just to see what fits for them. And when they find that thing that they like, we can keep rolling with that.
Okay.
Now, Livy, the thing that's at their age, it's hard to tell because Livy claims that she loves dance class and she wants to. We took her out of dance class after that last recital, just because she doesn't do it. She barely participates in the practices, and then she didn't participate in the show.
Right.
And meanwhile, it's just a waste of.
And you're paying for something that she's not
whatever
even,
the price was a month.
Yeah.
So, But now that we pulled her out of it, now she keeps saying she wants to go back into it.
Of course.
But it's like, I don't know if you actually want to go back into it. Or
I think at that age, they don't know what they want. And honestly, you might want to wait a year or two to really see.
That's why I just want her to try other stuff. Because if she tries, like she just got through soccer, say she tries a basketball or something, and after she does like 3 more things, then she says, well, I still want to do dance. Well, then we know. Okay, well then, yeah, we'll try dance again. And
I think, though, and you know, this is an old lady observation. I think today's parents feel like kids have to be in stuff and do stuff. And I never felt like that was such a necessity. But I think part of it is, though, kids today don't go out and play outside with neighborhood kids. They don't do the stuff that you guys did when you were growing up. Certainly not things that, like when I was growing up. You just went outside and played.
And that's why we want to sign them up for stuff, is because they won't go outside if we don't make them. They won't. You know, I got Mark a bike for his birthday with no training wheels because he's 8 years old and he should be riding a bike with no training wheels, and he doesn't know how to ride it. You know, and he's afraid to learn how to ride it. Every time I try to get him on it, he rides for like 2 seconds while I'm pushing him, and then he immediately gives up. Oh, I don't want to do this. It's like,
well, that's that fear. It's hard to get past that fear.
I get that, but when I guess I don't remember learning to ride a bike when I was his age, but I remember, during the summer, that's all I did. I'd be out riding my bike with Dan Sanger and Jason Quanstrom.
That's because your mom would say, get out of the house.
That's my point. So I either need stuff for him to do in the backyard, or he needs to learn to ride his bike. Because the kid next door is always on his bike. So it's like, if Mark can learn to ride his bike, they can ride their bike up and down the street.
Well, and you are very fortunate that here where you're living, you do have neighborhood kids.
This is why we moved into this neighborhood.
That makes a big difference.
When we were house shopping, that was one of the things I looked for, was a neighborhood where there was obvious signs of kids around, or near a park or something, which we're both. We're right down the street from a park. We're right down the street from an elementary school with a real nice playground. And there's kids all up and down the street.
That's really great.
And I looked for, a neighborhood with sidewalks so the kids could ride their bikes when they learn. And,
roller skate, skateboard,
and
all that stuff,
I remember doing all that when I was a kid, and that I feel like that was a great way to grow up, and I wanted that for my kids. I just got to get them off the couch and get them off Netflix. And Mark is already off. He's been off PlayStation for a few weeks now because I just can't take it anymore. It's too much.
Well, honestly, it's sad that today's kids don't just play. They don't. These days. Well,
I know. No, for real.
I mean, seriously,
You're right.
I know.
Wrong. You're not wrong.
I know. I mean, and honestly, as you know, your sister. I mean, where we live, everybody around us is old and retired, even older than me.
Now, for reference, because nobody else knows this, I guess let's get into this a little bit. We talked about my kids enough already. So my mom has five kids.
Children.
The original 4 of us. There's my older sister, who is now 36. I just turned 33, and then I have 2 younger sisters. One just turned 30, and the other one just turned. She's
26. She'll be 27 in January. Yes.
We're all about 3 years apart, except Sarah's like
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
And that was from first marriage. Then you got remarried, and I have a younger sister who is 13.
She'll be 14 in December.
Okay.
Yes.
So.
Surprise!
So you went through the process of having all your kids grow up and most of them out of the house, and then here comes lucky number 5.
I'm always telling people God's got a sense of humor.
And
I always tell people too that my second grandchild, my oldest daughter was pregnant with my second grandchild when I found out I was pregnant with Emma.
Right.
And they are 3.5 weeks apart. My grandson and Emma are 3.5 weeks apart.
And you have your granddaughter who just turned 16 this year, so she's older than your youngest.
And when I was in the hospital with Emma, I remember Allie calling me because Allie was like 3, and she said, "Grandma, the baby's name is Auntie M." And I was like, "Oh my God, her name is Auntie M because she's Emma." So it was kind of freaky, but interesting. But she's actually Allie's 3 years older. Allie's 3 years older than Emma.
She'll be 17 in February.
And Emma will be 14 in December.
So
surprise.
we have an interesting family.
That's not even to go on the other side.
But you know what? I was gonna say, on my dad's side, he also has 2. two kids with a second marriage. And they're even younger. My brother is a year younger than Mark, so he just turned. He'll be 7. Actually, his birthday party's this weekend. He'll be 7 this week, I think. And then my sister is
She 2?
2 years younger than my daughters, so she'll be 3, I think, in January.
That sounds about right.
I think. Man, I feel terrible that I don't know that, but.
The only reason you know mine is because I'm here telling you what the ages are. So,
I did my homework before you came. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, Emma babysits my kids, so I know she's 13 because she's old enough to babysit.
She babysits. She doesn't drive yet, but she babysits. Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about that a little bit. What was it like having? Now, who was still home when Emma was born?
Well, okay. Well, if you guys will remember, the thing I remember also very clearly is, Jenny was not living at home. I believe, she was married and already had Allie.
Yes.
And was pregnant with Jack, so she was not living at home. You, I think, at the time,
I think I was living at Dad's.
You were probably living at Dad's, or you were on your own. I can't remember for sure, but
I think
probably
I was
you're
living
living
at Dad's because if Emma's going to be 14 in December, I didn't move out of Dad's house until I was 21.
Yeah.
And I would have.
Or
been
you know what,
20
you might have
Emma
still
was
been
born.
you might have still been living at home when I found out I was pregnant.
Possibly.
So I was 43 when I found out I was pregnant. I had Emma at the age of 44. Anyway, so I remember calling all the kids over that I had something I wanted to talk to them about, and Jenny thought that I either had cancer or that I was pregnant, so she dug through my garbage and she found my pregnancy test in the garbage before I even got home.
So, she thought you were pregnant, so she dug through the garbage.
She said she thought I was either telling you guys that I had cancer or that I was pregnant.
Well,
so
when I didn't hear you say the pregnant part first. I thought you just said she thought you had cancer. I was like, why would she be digging through your garbage?
Because she's creepy and morbid.
Yeah,
but
that's
anyway, so I just remember when I told all you guys, I had like just about every reaction under the sun. I just remember
Betsy pissed or
one
something?
Laughed, one cried. Betsy cried because this is Betsy.
Typical Betsy.
One laughed, one cried. I think there was like just shock and just like every kind of reaction when I found out I was pregnant. And
I honestly can't remember.
You were living at home at the time, but then I think that is partly why you moved out. Besides the fact that you were trying to hide the tattoo that you had got on your back that I did not approve of. So
that's why I'm thinking
he was never allowed to have a tattoo if he lived under my roof.
But that's why I'm thinking I was out of the house already because I got the tattoo when I was just
believe
about
you
to turn
got
19.
Well, I believe that you.
So that would have been.
I believe
2000.
you moved out after I found out I was pregnant. And I kind of always felt like, in a way, that was partly why you moved out, because you knew that there was going to be another person in the house and there'd be more
what year
space.
was Emma born then?
Emma was born in 2004.
2000. Was she born in 2004?
The end of 2004. The very end of 2004.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then I moved out of your house late 2004.
Yeah.
So,
I was thinking you
right.
did like
You're
after
right.
I was pregnant, because I was thinking you were partly thinking that. Well, and considering you lived in the dungeon downstairs in the laundry room.
I didn't have a bedroom. I had to live in the laundry room. I got my bedroom revoked because I wasn't using it. I was sleeping on the couch every night. And
in my defense, we had 4 bedrooms, and we had 4 kids, and Dave and I. So it was kind of like. So and because they all wanted their own room, so his room, quote unquote, was
a shower curtain in front of the laundry room.
We did have a bedroom in the basement. Oops, sorry. We did have a bedroom in the basement, but that was already somebody was in that one. I don't remember who was in it at that time.
I was in the bedroom in the basement. It was mine.
Okay.
But I started sleeping on the couch for some reason, and I just ended up liking the couch more, so I kept sleeping on the couch. And then you finally said, well, if you're not going to sleep in your room, Betsy's going to get it. So you gave my room to Betsy.
Okay.
And then you also kicked me off the couch at the same time. So you said, well, we'll just put your bed in the corner of the basement and put a shower curtain up for your door.
And he pretended like he was like really liked it, that it was his cool space, but he was just being nice. I know.
No, actually, I kind of made it my own a little bit, and I kind of enjoyed it.
You had a Slipknot picture on the wall in chalk.
I drew a Slipknot sign on the wall,
He's cool like that.
I had my nice stereo in the corner of the basement that I like to listen to my music.
You had a really
down
cool
there.
shower curtain hanging.
Yeah,
in
my
front.
shower curtain was my bedroom door.
So Harry Potter slept under the stairs, but Chris slept in the basement next to the laundry room, or
Next
in the laundry
to the
room.
stairs that I could have also slept under, I
Next
guess,
to the
if I
stairs
wanted to.
by the washer and dryer.
Except for we kept our Christmas decorations under the stairs. The Christmas decorations have more shelter than I did. So.
That's right. That's because I'm special.
Okay. Where were we going with this?
This is what's wrong with Chris, just
Yeah.
in case anybody's wondering. Yeah.
I was gonna say you're really giving a lot of insight into the show now for a lot of people, I'm sure. But that's kind of why I wanted to have you on, though. You know,
This is why he's still looking for attention.
I talk about my kids all the time, so I figured it would be good to have you on here to talk about your kid,
My children.
Well, your kids, including me.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I was trying to think on the way here of a few embarrassing Chris stories.
I'm sure there's plenty. of them.
There's so many,
okay,
But I was
well.
just trying to think of a couple, like, on my way here, I was trying to think, okay, so...
Oh, you got notes.
I
saw the notes.
I
I
wrote
didn't
down
even
just
see
a
that
couple
before.
things. Nothing, super exciting, but a
Okay.
couple things.
All right,
Okay.
where are we starting?
One of them was like, and all these, of course, because you were there.
Yeah.
But when you were little, I'd say you were like 2-3 years old, probably younger than your girls.
I think I already know where this one's going.
Okay, the church one.
Oh, okay, no, that's not where I thought you were
the
going.
church one was we were at Mass. We're Catholic. We're at Mass. It's in the middle of Mass, and I've got him up on my shoulder, and he's looking, back over my shoulder like little kids do. And there's an old lady sitting behind us at Mass, and just randomly out of nowhere in the middle of Mass, it's really quiet, and he goes, "Wild thing," and he's looking right at this old lady sitting behind us at Mass, and of course my sister was sitting next to me, and we just both are trying so hard not to bust out laughing.
So
in the
what
middle
you're
of
saying
church.
is, even at such a young age, I was just a straight up ladies' man.
Oh
to,
yeah.
to the core.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that old woman was very impressed with you singing "Wild Thing." She probably didn't even know what the song was, but yeah, that was funny. Okay. This is you have to preface this
Okay.
incident.
Preface away.
When Chris was probably like around 3, because they were all 3 years apart. Jenny was like 6. He was about 3. Betsy was a newborn. And him and Jenny were out in the driveway. We lived in Cedar Lake. We had gravel driveway, rocks in the driveway. And he was out. They were playing in the rocks in the car. Behind the car, Glenn, my ex-husband, was working on the car, the engine on the car, his work car. He was working on it. And they're back there playing in the rocks. And Chris is playing, and Glenn decided to take the car for a test drive, and he saw Jenny go in the house, and he assumed that Chris followed Jenny in the house, and he went to back the car up, and he backed into Chris. So basically, he didn't run him over completely, but here I am with a newborn baby, like a week old, and Glenn comes in screaming, and he's holding Chris, saying, "I just ran over Chris with the car! Oh my God!" So with the total panic, and we go to the hospital. This isn't funny. I know this.
I was going to say
funny.
this is a real great funny anecdote for this comedy show about our kids.
We laugh about it now.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Anyway,
Hilarious.
So months later, I'm in the grocery store. It's probably like 6 or 8 months later. I'm in the grocery store, and I run into a girl that I went to high school with. I had not seen her in probably 10 years, and I'm sitting there talking to her in the grocery store, and Chris just randomly blurts out, "My daddy runned over me with a car." And I'm like, "Oh my God."
You know what? Our family in general, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
We love to blurt out things
we have a slew of those stories. Like,
embarrassing.
Let's see, my cousin, I'm not going to name names on this, I guess, but one of my cousins, who's around my age, he was out with his mom at, I don't know where, a grocery store or something, when he randomly told some stranger in the store, "My daddy cut my pee-pee with a knife."
yeah.
And then, let's see, who else? There was his sister.
Yeah.
They were
at the mall.
At the mall. And she just randomly shouts, "Don't beat me, Mom!"
Yeah, I mean, and which my sister obviously never did, and just,
so she says.
Yeah, right. I mean, she, and she just was like, I didn't even know why she said that. But yeah, Chris, randomly just
Yeah.
told this girl at a store that I had not seen in forever that,
I guess
my
the
dad
big-
ran me over with a car.
The
and
big
I'm like, oh my
takeaway
God.
from this, though, is my dad ran me over when I was 3 years old. So
That explains a lot
no.
too, doesn't it? That and Chris lived in the basement
Yes.
under the stairs.
Yes.
Well, almost.
God, really make my childhood sound great.
Well, okay. So, all right. So anyway, some other things. Just this one I love. You probably know what this one is too, but he was probably in about first grade, and I remember just because typical kids, you have to tell them to brush their teeth, you have to tell them to take a bath, you have to tell them to
shit.
whatever, and
Yeah, I
so
know.
I'm telling him he has to, you need to put on clean underwear. Go put on some clean underwear. So I was yelling at him about, you have to go put on clean underwear. So he puts on clean underwear, I thought. And so
No, I did put on clean
whatever.
underwear.
But a couple days later, he comes up to me and he's telling me he's sore, basically in his boy area, that he's really sore. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Well, I find out, yes, he did put on clean underwear, and he put them over the top of his dirty underwear. And so he was a sweaty mess for like 2 days because, yeah. So, and that, and if he's
not
if he
the- I was
if
not
he
the
is still
sharpest kid
if
out
he
there.
is still doing that, this is Ashley's problem and it's not mine, and I don't want to hear about it. But yeah, that was like one of those classic. I can't believe I had to tell you take off the dirty underwear before you put on the clean ones. But apparently you do.
I did exactly what you told me to do. I
Oh.
put on a clean pair of underwear.
You were always so good at doing exactly what I
did.
told you.
I followed the instructions
Yes, yeah.
exactly
Yes,
the way you
were,
told me.
You were very, very good at.
Now, had you said step 1, remove dirty underwear,
Then-
I would have
yes.
followed that
Then you
instruction
would've-
as well.
then you would've
But
listened.
you didn't.
Yes, and it is. You're right. It is my fault.
your fault.
It is my fault. So, this isn't really necessarily a funny incident, but I just was thinking about, like you when you were little, the Ghostbuster obsession. He
Still,
was
to this day.
Well, he didn't just watch Ghostbusters. He didn't just play Ghostbusters. He was a Ghostbuster all the time. 24 hours a day. And of course he was Peter Venkman.
Well, Venkman's the coolest of them.
Yeah, he was
obviously.
Peter Venkman, and wasn't
Tim was
Tim
always
was Ray Stan?
Well, I think
Wasn't he Ray?
early on. I think he was Ray, but then he started playing Egon too because
he was Egon.
he played with. I remember the blue plastic glasses he used to
the
wear,
monocle type of thing. Yeah.
and I think the glasses were when he was Egon, but
Yeah.
I think he was Ray for a
But
while.
I mean, just total obsession with Ghostbusters. I mean, so much so that he watched that movie so many times a day. I can probably still quote every line in the movie.
I absolutely still can't
yeah,
quote
I mean,
it
and
word
it's
for word.
sad, but for me to still be able to quote every line in the movie,
It's a great movie. I mean, look at the cast. It's
and I look back now
it's
too.
Bill Murray at his finest.
But I mean, I look back now too. I probably started letting you watch that sooner than you should have because I
Yeah.
found that movie to be very funny. The first time
Yeah.
I watched it, I laughed my butt off. I thought it was hilarious.
Still to this day, there's so we had when I was growing up. I remember we had a VHS copy of Ghostbusters,
Because we were cool with the VHS.
but it wasn't a store-bought VHS copy. We taped it off of I think ABC or something.
Yeah.
And there was like I can't remember if it was in the middle of the movie or there was also a Donald Duck cartoon on that same tape.
Okay.
And I can't remember if they like actually played that to lead into the movie or something, or if we taped the cartoons first and then we taped over the cartoons with the Ghostbusters.
I taped so many things on tapes.
I want to.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
say we taped over the cartoons with Ghostbusters because
Probably.
I want to say so. It was a Donald Duck cartoon when he was like, he was like cutting branches on a tree or something.
I can't
It was
believe you remember
Chippendale.
that. Oh, I remember
Chippendale,
that one.
yeah,
How could I
and
forget that?
he's got the branch cutter thing, and is chasing Chippendale around. And then the other one that was also on that same tape was when there was a bee that was making honey in the
Yes.
radiator of his old car.
Yes.
And I still to this day, like whenever I see those cartoons, I immediately think of Ghostbusters, and like it's such pure nostalgia for me. And I think it cut into like, I think. When we taped it, I think we missed the very, very beginning when the librarian ghost scares the
did we
old
really?
lady
Oh, I
librarian,
ruined it for
and
you.
it just cuts into the Ghostbusters. Like, I think it cuts into like Venkman's doing his psychic test and flirting with the girl when he's doing the shock therapy on the guy. So that's the way I remember. I know this is not like very kid centric, but I don't know.
Well,
you talked about Ghostbusters.
Well,
now it's bringing up.
No,
Ghostbusters
well, no, but I mean,
for
I just really remember he had a Ghostbuster jumpsuit that I bought one year for Christmas. Probably Santa gave him one year for Christmas. It was a Ghostbuster
What do you
jumpsuit.
mean you bought it? I thought I got it from Santa.
Oh my god! Anyway,
What is this?
He wore it for so damn long that I can't even. It became flutters. We eventually cut it into shorts because it was so short on him.
Flutters being like capris or
Yeah, ridiculously short, and
Everything's come
then
up
honestly, I finally. It was so sad that I couldn't believe he wouldn't quit wearing it. I finally found another one and bought one in a bigger size because he wore it forever. And sadly enough, don't you still have the one, or do we? That's in our Halloween stuff, probably.
Probably in your Halloween stuff.
He has
now.
an adult size Ghostbuster costume
It's
that he wore
it's
just
a tacky one. Though.
Just a couple years ago.
Yeah,
that he wore.
it's not a very good one. It's one of those cheap Halloween store ones that it's literally like.
Yeah.
They took like a painter's jumpsuit, you know,
and they
just
couple
put a
of emblems on
Ghostbuster
it.
sticker on
Yeah.
it. It's real tacky.
But the best part when he was a Ghostbuster, because I didn't have a ton of money, so I didn't buy all the stuff, all the accessories. His Ghostbuster backpack,
Proton pack.
his Proton pack, sorry,
Get it right.
was a fold-up tray table. If you can picture the
Like a TV tray.
the little ones though that you set like
sit
on your lap,
just on your lap.
like
They
on your
don't
lap.
stand on the floor. They
And
sit
he,
on your
yeah,
lap.
he would put his arms through the little lap thingies, and then because he didn't have the stick for it, he'd go get a branch or something out of the yard, and that would be like.
I also for a while had the microphone stand too. Was
the
my
microphone?
gun.
Oh, that was that plastic microphone
Yeah.
stand. Yeah, I remember the plastic microphone
But
stand.
I don't know if the sticks were before that or after that, but at some point,
whatever was handy at that
Yeah,
point. Yeah.
sure.
So I mean, it was just it was kind of sad. But yeah, there's a lot of pictures of him being a Ghostbuster.
Yeah,
and
I'll see if I can track down some pictures of me when I was a kid, and I'm sure at least half a dozen of them will have me with this tray table on the back. And now you have
tray
context
table.
for that.
Yeah.
So
You can have
now
a
you know
picture
why.
of him with the tray table on his back, and you're going, "What the hell is he wearing a tray table for?" But
Yeah, that was my proton.
that might
pack,
have been
though.
a popple tray table, if I'm not sure. But I'm not
I
sure.
don't remember. What are popples?
Weren't popples that little they were like a stuffed animal thing that?
I'm gonna have to Google this.
Yeah, I
don't-
can't. I
For
thought
some
they
reason,
were,
when you said popple,
you're thinking of the Burples, not the Burples.
No, not Burples. That wasn't. When you
Which
said popples,
Burples, you guys remember? I was just discussing this the other day.
Yeah, Burples were. So any of you that grew up with like in a like middle class or lower income family, I'm sure you can relate to this. They have those juice bottles at the stores. They're not like Kool-Aid. They're not like the Capri Suns.
They were
They're
like
the plastic bottles
the
with the
little
foil,
hugs
the
was-
foil top, and
Yes.
you would poke your. As a kid, a lot of times you would just poke your finger through and drink through the foil,
Or
and then the
put a
foil
straw
would
on it or whatever.
slice your mouth up as
Yeah,
you're drinking. And
yeah. But really, actually, the reason you guys called them Burples, because back in the day, if anybody remembers this, they actually made a product that was in a plastic bottle, and it was like a concentrated Kool-Aid, basically. And it was like an accordion bottle, and you would accordion the bottle open up higher, and then you would add water and shake it, and that was a real Burple.
I remember. I can hear the sound of that.
Yeah, that little accordion bottle.
Yes.
You added water to it, and that made that was a Burple. But I was too cheap to buy those because that was the name brand. So I would go to the Bargain Barn in Lowell. That was
the
connected,
bargain
barn that was connected
it's
to Wilco,
it's
and buy
now
those
a
Strax. It's
like a
Strax.
massage therapy.
Oh yeah.
place
Where
right
the
next
massage
door,
is
yeah.
right next to Strax.
I think it's a chiropractor slash.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah, there used to be the Bargain Barn there, and I would
The
buy
Bargain
those
Barn.
the quote unquote Burples for you guys
remember-
for like a 24 pack.
wasn't Bargain Barn like the inside of it?
Was tacky and crappy.
Didn't it basically look like the back room of a grocery store?
yes,
Like there was
yes.
the crappy shelves everywhere
Yes.
with just the cardboard
like
boxes
a warehouse,
of the.
yes. Yeah, it was like a really tacky
Aldi.
Aldi, or if anybody knows Save a Lot, even tackier, worse version of Save a Lot. But
I forgot
yeah,
about Bargain Barn.
yeah, the Bargain Barn. So yeah,
Yeah, the Burples. I still I can still feel those Burple sores on the side of my mouth with that foil lid just slicing. But you don't care because the juice is.
or the plastic with it
Yeah.
always had kind of a little bit of a sharp
Yeah.
edge to it. So
And like somehow the juice, like there was a foil taste to the juice too, and there's something good about that though.
and
like-
then what you had to have with it was because I, besides having 5 children, Yeah, I had 4 at that
Four at
time.
the time,
I had
yeah.
4 at the time. I babysat, so I would have
yeah.
like
We always had
mass quantities of
1,000
children.
kids
Yeah, I
around
mean,
our
there
house.
were some days I would have up to 16 or 18 kids at my house. Seriously, it was. I don't know why. And now when I look back, I'm like, there really is something wrong with me. But
I'm grateful for that still though, because it just was.
it gave you guys
was
somebody.
always something
there,
to
there
do.
was always somebody to play with.
Yeah.
There was always somebody to hang out with or fight with, depending on the day.
or both in one
or
day.
both, yes. Or people to gang up but I mean, what it was.
So
I think
aside
it made
from
it.
Burples.
I mean, I just remember. As far as the snack goes,
Yes.
I used to buy the Maurice Linnell in the big tub because that was from the Bargain Barn too. The Maurice Linnell cookies. Do you remember the tub of cookies? Had like the pinwheel.
Oh yeah, the weird
icky
cookie with the
jelly
in the middle, like whatever that is.
The crappy hard chocolate
Yeah.
chip cookies.
Yeah.
The pinwheel one that looked,
I think the pinwheels were maybe the only ones.
the only
I
ones
liked.
that you guys liked, but there were some crappy like shortbread ones in there, but they were
Yeah.
super cheap. So I mean, I bought the Burples were a huge treat for me having
Yeah.
all those kids around the house, and the Maurice Linnell bucket of cookies
I also
because it was cheap.
I also remember the Schwann's man coming. And,
And you guys would be
and
like-
you'd get the push pops.
I would
the
buy
orange push ups.
Well, I would buy whatever kind of ice cream bars or
Yeah.
push ups or whatever from the Schwann's
Oh,
man
root
because
beer-
I would
the
get
root
an
beer float
entire
bars.
could get an entire 24 pack for
Yeah.
so much cheaper than what you could get in the store. And then then every time the ice cream man would go by, I'd have not just my 4 children, mom, I'd
Yeah.
have everybody going, "Can we get ice cream?" And I'd
So you'd
say,
say, "There's ice cream in the
"There's ice
freezer."
cream in the freezer," so they would go run and get something that the Schwann's man that I bought from the Schwann's man. So some exciting.
Yeah. I remember all
Chris
the
is having
Burples.
like
I know,
nostalgia moments right now.
I'm really happy right now. This is all making me very happy. You know what? Somebody a few years ago, a girl that you used to babysit when she went to high school with me, obviously because we
We're
all
about
grew
around
up
the
in the
same
same
age,
town.
yeah.
She always used to talk about, you know what I remember about your house was the pile of grilled cheese. Like whenever you would be babysitting like 10 kids at a time, you would just start making grilled cheese, and there would be just a
huge
plate.
a
plate just piled with grilled cheeses cut in half, and you would just get a plate, like probably a paper plate, go up to the table, grab a couple slices for yourself, and go.
Yeah,
You know?
well, or I would make if I made like macaroni and cheese. Those okay. The big ones were macaroni and cheese because
Yeah.
I'd make like 2-3 boxes. I'd make a huge pan of it because it went for a long way. I would do maybe sometimes frozen pizza.
Yeah.
But yeah, cheap frozen pizza, of course,
Yeah.
because there were so many kids. But yeah, the grilled cheese was another one of them. Hot dogs were always
Hot
a huge
dogs, yeah.
staple, with the kids. And I mean, I always just made kid-friendly food anyway.
Yeah.
I wasn't like making any gourmet anything anyway. You know.
Yeah.
But
This is all talking about all this is making me think like you'll have to come back one time and we'll have to do an entire episode about like stretching every dollar for because you had 4 kids and I think I'm trying to remember how old I was when I think I was about 10 or 11 when you and Dad separated, and so from that point on it was you in a house with 4 kids, and you were buying all the meals and so this is actually really good advice for people that if you're on a low, man, I'm gonna have to have
budget.
you back because we don't have enough time to get into like the real nitty gritty. But my mom is a notorious cheapskate. Like, and she
Bargain
knows
shopper.
it. She admits
I'm
it.
proud of
She's
it.
proud of it. So like,
I like to dollar sign everything.
If
I got
you
this on a clearance.
keep an eye out for that episode because that'll be a good one. How to stretch your budget for multiple kids or even just one kid. If you're a single child family but you have a low income or something, and you need to make that budget work, or you're trying to get used to your budget with
It's
a new
tough.
baby in the house,
It's tough.
it is hard, especially when you're paying for diapers still, man.
Oh my God,
we're
yeah.
we're lucky enough. Scarlett wears a diaper to bed now, and that's the only diapers
that
we have
is
to deal with
so
right now.
expensive.
And
so
man,
expensive.
even
and
just
formula. Oh my
even just
God.
that one diaper a night ends up just being stupid expensive. Like when you actually think about how much we're spending on diapers a month, like It's still stupid.
Except for when your mom calls and says, "What size does she wear?" Because I found a
you
clearance
found
at Strax
clearance diapers
on pull-ups.
But yeah, well, that'll be a great episode. But
Yeah.
I didn't mean it. Do you have more on your list?
No, I mean,
there?
just little.
Now
like
that you
I said,
trash talk me, you're not going to trash talk any of my sisters.
No. Well, okay. I mean, I was talking about the underwear thing, and it made me think of the time that I was at another church story that I used to sing in the choir, and all through. And Jenny was 2-3 years old, probably 3 years old, and there was a little boy there, was a son of one of the other people in the choir, and he was just staring at her all through mass. I couldn't figure out what the deal was. He just was like watching her every move. He was so fascinated by her, and it wasn't till after mass I realized she had no underwear on, and she was wearing a dress. To church, and so I remember being like, oh my God, I can't. Well, she was at the age 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah.
She dressed herself, and as you know, that's little kids just do whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. My girls, they love to be naked. Well, not completely naked. They at least like to keep their underwear on around the house.
I see so many pictures of your children naked
in their underwear,
or in their underwear all the time.
Constant.
Betsy's the same way.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I don't mean Betsy's in her underwear. I mean Annabelle's
hope
in her
not.
underwear.
I don't go to Betsy's house that often, so I can't dispute it. But I would hope not. But yeah, my kids are even Mark. Mark lays around the house in his underwear all day. It's just
Well, and you know what's hilarious about that, and I will bring this up, and you will remember this. Your kids have become the naked family.
Oh, God, the naked family.
When we lived in Lowell, there was a family a street behind us, and they had like 3 little kids that were like step in age. And every time you went to their house, didn't matter, whatever, you'd be knocking on the door for something, or you'd be going by their house, their kids were in their underwear all the time. It didn't matter what time of year it was. It didn't matter if it was 30 below. If you knocked on the door, their kids would run to the door in their underwear. And now your children are the naked people.
I remember how weird that was.
We called them the naked people.
I remember how weird that was for me as a kid. But now that it's my kids that are in their underwear, it doesn't seem strange at all.
How about the naked boy in Central Park?
Do
you remember the naked boy in Central Park?
So, what year would that have been?
You were in high school.
I was maybe 13 or 14, I think.
Something like that.
And we went to New York City to visit my aunt and uncle who were living out there, and we went to Central Park. Yeah. And in the middle of Central Park, there was this big giant playground
and a big fountain.
Back before the fountain, there was just this big giant playground. Ooh, sorry. And like I said, I was about 13, 14 years old. But out of nowhere, this like little, probably 4-year-old kid runs up to me and grabs me by the hand. And he's like, "Hey, come here! I got to show you this." Like, I don't know this kid. I don't know what.
He was your new best friend.
And he just grabbed me by the hand and he led me around the playground. He showed me all the slides. He showed me the ladders. He showed me everything he could think of that he was just playing with. Just grabbed me by the hand and showed this random stranger all this stuff.
Which is a little creepy when you think about it now.
Weird. Like that his parents were just fine with this, but. So after he's done giving me the tour of Central Park, he goes back and does his thing, and I go sit with my family because I was too old and too cool for this playground, but my little sisters were playing on it, so we were just sitting there for a little while. And then the next thing we know, we look over at this fountain right next to the playground, and this kid's parents have him just stripped down bare naked, and they're like bathing him in this fountain in the middle of Central Park. And
you were mortified.
This was about the time when we were leaving the playground. So we were walking away, and the kid saw me as his parents are bathing him in this fountain. He saw me walking away, and he waved to me, and he goes, "Hey, don't forget me, okay?"
And you never forgot him. And you never forgot him.
And what a weird thing for a 4-year-old kid to say to you. "Hey, don't forget me." Okay. It worked. Success.
Well, a little naked kid in the fountain at Central Park kind of.
Yeah, that's very memorable for sure. But,
so as long as your kids don't become the totally naked kids out in public.
They run around. I try to have some limits. Like I try not to let them go outside too much in their underwear.
I try not to let them
sometimes
go outside
they do.
Too much.
Sometimes they do. If it's hot outside, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, the girls are 4 right now, so it's not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
Mark, he probably doesn't need to be outside in his underwear, but I mean, if he's comfortable with himself enough, I also don't want to project that image on him that you need to be ashamed of that.
But it's just funny though when you think about the fact that when you were little, And what you guys always called them the naked people.
Yeah.
Our whole family called that family that lived behind us the naked people.
I forgot about the naked kids
and we
until
would
you
talk
just said
about,
it.
we'd say, you'd say where? And you'd say, oh, right where the naked people
naked
live.
kids' house.
The naked kids' house, yeah. The naked people.
Yeah, it was a landmark
They were
in our
they were also
neighborhood.
the people that had their Christmas tree up the entire year. Do you remember that? Oh,
I
no,
don't remember that.
No, and I shouldn't say that. No, it wasn't the entire year. No, I remember we went there trick-or-treating, and she had her Christmas tree up on Halloween.
Oh.
And we were like, what is going on with that
I don't
crap?
remember that. I don't
Yeah.
remember that. I do remember the naked kids. I don't
They were
remember
odd
that.
people, but yeah. So.
We had some odd people in the
Well,
neighborhood.
they're odd. Yeah, it's true. Anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we're closing in on an hour, which is about what my episodes usually run.
Okay.
Is there any other?
Was there anything you want to ask or say?
Well, I know this was good. I had some questions that I was going to ask you, but this conversation just kind of went naturally, and I liked the way it went.
We're so shy.
I know.
And sadly, you know what you should do sometime if you really want to blow everybody's mind is have your entire family in an episode because
you wouldn't hear anything.
It's just
going to
we all-
be a roar of
Yeah.
rah, 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 rah.
we all talk over the top of each other,
And somehow we catch every part of the conversation, even though we're all talking at the same time.
and we can all hear what they said, and then we chime in on that one, and then we also bring up all those same stories that over the years.
We have the same 20 stories that we tell every
Mm-hmm.
Christmas, and whenever there's a new person brought into the mix,
and it even doesn't matter if there's anybody new. We still bring it up as if we just like it's the first time.
Me and Ashley have been together for going on 4 years now, and she's already heard all these stories.
And she's already sick of them.
Probably 15 times each. So,
Yeah.
it doesn't take long for us to get through all of our stories, but
Yeah.
let me think. I should ask you some questions just to get a little bit of a Q&A.
What was the first time you remember? I was thinking Disney because we're Disney freaks in our family.
Oh yeah, big Disney freaks.
What age do you remember? I mean, I know you were there when you were little.
Third grade.
But you remember the third grade?
Yes, because
That's
that
the
was
one you remember.
Yes, because that was when we got home. You and Dad got separated very shortly after that trip.
Dad, that was an interesting trip for you.
Yeah.
Well, that was the trip when I knew something
Yeah,
was
that
happening
trip.
there.
That trip was like I loved it just because it was Disney World. How could you not love it? But
Yeah.
at the same time, like I knew something was wrong then.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
that's a memorable trip
So
for
that
me.
was third grade. You were in third grade when that?
Yes, and I remember specifically that it was third grade because I was in Mrs. Weaver's class. She does the President's Day play, the George Washington play.
Okay.
Well, she doesn't still. I don't think is she even. She's
she
probably
actually-
retired.
She retired, but actually she's a religious ed director in Dyer at the church in
okay.
Dyer. Yeah.
Well, she was my third grade teacher, and every year she did the George Washington play for the
Yep.
third grade class, and that's in February for President's Day. And I was not allowed to get a part in the play because we knew we were going to Disney the week of the play. So I missed the George Washington play. So they just had me practice as the curtain holder for a couple weeks. So that's how I remember when that Disney trip was.
I was wondering how you remembered
Yeah,
that.
that's the only.
Okay, so
that's
if
the
you were
only
in
way I
third
put it
grade,
together.
then Betsy was
Kindergarten, probably. Kindergarten.
and then I know Sarah was around 3. I think Sarah was about 3.
Yeah, because I would have been 10, I think, in third grade.
Okay,
I
right.
think if I'm
Fun
remembering
memories.
correctly. Yeah.
Get home from Disney and your parents separate. Well, it wasn't.
No, it was Easter.
And it wasn't. No, I was going to say it was not right after we got home. It was Easter. I know it was the day.
I remember it was
I know,
Easter Day. I woke up and Dad wasn't home.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Happy
this
Easter!
this is a real fun conversation
Happy
for a
Easter!
funny podcast. But
we can laugh about it now.
yeah,
It's okay.
no,
okay.
it's all over and done with
It's
20 years
life.
ago.
It's
so
life.
whatever.
Yeah, it's life.
But yeah, so was there something? That's the first Disney trip I remember. Was that
I was
what you
just,
were
I was just
going
going to ask you, as far as us being like a
Yeah,
Disney family, I didn't remember which ones you
We've been
remembered.
to Disney. I've been to Disney with you. I think I tallied it up because we went last October.
Yeah.
And I think I tallied it up. I think that was our 11th trip with you, or that was my 11th trip. I think 10th with the family.
That's even when you're counting when you were a baby, because I think
I
we
don't
took you
count
when
that
you were
one.
you were like 1 or 2.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think,
not even 2.
I don't think it's counting that one.
Okay. Because I think you were around 1, I remember.
And that was when
pictures of
Jenny
you.
got like the whatever, however many people were through the gate. She got like a headband.
And that was
light-up
also
headband.
the time she fell on the curb, and then
Oh,
Alice
Prince-
in Wonderland
Oh,
came
Alice in
over.
Wonderland.
It was during the parade down Main Street, and Jenny tripped like on something, and she hurt her knee, and she was crying, and Alice in Wonderland came over from the parade and helped
Yeah.
her up and said, "Are you okay?" And she was like completely starstruck. It was amazing.
That's another episode that we'll have to do is
A Disney-aholic
like
episode.
planning a Disney trip, because
Yeah.
since this is a kid themed podcast, a lot of the people that listen to this podcast have kids, and I'm sure like the Disney vacation is something that a lot of parents dream about, that they always think it's out of their reach, and we'll never be able to bring our kids to Disney. Or there's some people that take their kids to Disney, but they way overdo it, and then they regret it because they spent thousands of dollars that they didn't need to.
Right.
But we're seasoned veterans at the Disney trip
Yeah.
planning, so I think that would be actually a good episode that for people that would love to take their kids to Disney, on how the most affordable way to do it, and,
Yeah.
and where to stay, and what
Yeah.
to do, and how to enjoy, like, how to make the most of your money, because we've done it enough times that
Yeah.
it's almost an art.
Although-
it took a lot of learning. And,
I have to say, one of my favorite memories is Mark a few years back when you took him by yourself and with us. I shouldn't
Yeah.
say you.
Yeah.
You went as a
it
single
was my
parent with
first
him.
single dad trip.
And he was
my
with
only
all,
single dad
he
trip.
was
I
with
think.
all of us, but
Yeah.
but Mark was like,
Mark was 5.
and he was like Mr. Meltdown the whole time. But
Oh,
but the
yeah.
best part was the time we left the Animal Kingdom Lodge, and he was having a fit on the bus. It was hysterical. I mean, it's
So-
he didn't think it was funny at the time.
So
Chris
first,
did, but-
he didn't want to be at that restaurant. We were eating breakfast at the Animal Kingdom Lodge, and he didn't want to be there. But then finally, when it was time to leave and go to the park, suddenly he didn't want to leave.
Yeah, that's
so we get I
5-year-olds.
drag him out to the bus stop, and he's crying and screaming the whole way to the bus stop. The bus comes. So we're about to get on the bus. He won't get on the bus. So I pick him up to take him on the bus. He grabs hold of this pole at the bus stop, and I have to rip him off the pole to get him on the bus. I start walking onto the bus. He grabs the door, and I have to rip him off the door to get him on. And then we get a little bit more onto the bus. He grabs the pole by the driver, and he won't let go of that. So I have to rip him off of that. Finally, I get him all the way onto the bus, and I'm holding him like kind of sideways, so his head's on, pointing in one
As he's
direction.
kicking and screaming
he's
the
kicking
entire
and screaming. And we're finally to a point on the bus where there's nothing for him to grab onto. So he takes his shoe off, throws it at some random stranger.
Wings it, yeah.
Then he grabs his other shoe, whips it at somebody else. Then he grabs a sock, throws his sock at somebody else. He took off both his shoes, both his socks, and his wristband,
And didn't he take
threw
off
them
his hat,
all
too? I
at
think
5
that he
different
had-
people.
yeah.
May probably took his hat
Yeah.
off too. I just remember the shoes and socks all came off,
Shoes and socks.
not all at the same time either. It was one at a time, and threw them all at separate people. And it was one of the most humiliating things I ever lived through.
It was hysterical.
But
because I wasn't the one holding him.
yeah, I feel like every parent on that bus could have absolutely related to that situation.
Oh,
but
yeah.
at the time, that was my situation, and it was
Yeah.
humiliating.
It was awesome.
But
Cool
actually,
Disney memory.
one of my favorite pictures ever came from that trip. Was that was, like I said, that was my single dad trip with Mark. It was right after me and his mom separated, and everything was still fresh. So it was really rough for him to be away from his mom for a week, and we were just doing the best we could that week, just me and him, and the whole week was a fight like that. And there was like, he met characters, and I still remember, like, I sobbed when he met, because the whole, like, it was 3 days before we met Pluto, and that I didn't know that was the character he was waiting for. But he wouldn't talk to any other characters. He wouldn't shake their hands. He wouldn't hug them
He
or
didn't
anything.
want a picture with them.
But
yeah.
then we were at dinner, and Pluto comes out, and he sees Pluto coming from across the room, and I have a picture of it. I'm about to start crying now just thinking of it.
Because Chris always cries.
He sees Pluto from across the room, and just like his puts his hands up by his mouth, and he's like shaking because he's so excited, and like just the excitement on his face. I'll never forget that, and it was just.
And yes,
That,
he is crying.
I
just
am
so you all
crying.
know.
I wasn't joking. I'm crying. It was like one of the happiest moments, just because like the week up to that point was just hell,
Yeah.
And finally we get that moment, and then everything kind of turned around from there. And
well, I think part of it was too, and I mean, obviously we'll talk about this further down the line if you ever want to do that episode.
Yeah.
You have to pace yourself with what your kids want.
Oh,
if you go
yeah,
to Disney.
yeah.
And that was part of the issue is you had an agenda, and he did not want to have an agenda.
Not at all.
Kids don't want an agenda.
But my favorite, still to this day, one of my favorite pictures was at the end of that week, which was ups and downs the whole week. We watched the Wishes nighttime fireworks, and going down Main Street then to leave on our last night at the park. We got a really nice picture, like a nighttime picture of us. Me and him. He's on my shoulders, and just this, the smile on his face in front of the castle. Yeah. It's like the most perfect picture ever. Yeah. And I just remember like seeing that picture, and like I think I posted it on Facebook that night, and I was like sobbing the whole time I'm writing the post up.
Oh, I know. I remember that.
It was such a hard week, and I thought there was no way I was going to make it through, but then like that last night, getting to see the look on his face when we were leaving and how happy he was, like just made the whole week worthwhile.
Well, of course, and yes, he's still crying.
I'm still crying. I'm a sap. I know I am, but yeah. So that's now that we've got that out of the way. But yeah, we'll have to do a Disney episode. We'll have to do a Cheapskate episode because I think those would be great, and that's something that other parents need to hear. And you're a veteran parent, you've got 5 kids,
9 grandkids,
3 of them in their 30s now. Yeah, 9 grandkids.
9 grandkids. God, I'm old.
Yeah, you are.
I just went to my 40th class reunion.
Really?
God, I'm old. Yeah.
We were supposed to have our 10-year class reunion a few years ago, and it got canceled because nobody
cared.
Nobody wanted to come. Well, they tried to make it at like this country club, and nobody
we just had it at Mi Ranchito. It was great.
I thought it would be great if they just did it at the gym in the school. You know,
I
think.
Well, the school generally doesn't let you do that stuff.
Well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I think
that's stupid.
I think a fun class reunion would be like a remake of a dance, like a high school dance. Yeah. I think that would be great.
Well, I don't think the school will allow it.
Well,
it's probably a liability issue.
Yeah, well,
they can't rent
sign a waiver
out.
or something, you know.
And you know how many reunions they'd be having in there every week then if that were the case. But anyway.
Well, yeah, but...
Yeah, on that other note.
Yeah, so 40th class reunion.
I'm an old lady.
Yeah, you are. I'm not even 40 yet.
I know.
And you had 40 years since your class reunion.
Yep, 40 years.
40 years since you graduated.
36-year-old, so that'll do it.
Ancient.
I know. Tell me about it.
Quit being so old.
Shut up. Anyway.
All right. Well, this actually was really fun. I knew it was going to be. I was excited for this, and I think people are going to enjoy this, and I definitely would like to have you back on because we have other stuff we could talk about. This just flew by. I didn't get to ask any of my questions. I guess the last question, we'll end it on this one. Who's your favorite kid?
I knew you were going to say that.
You got 5 to choose from, so which one's your favorite?
Oh, gosh. Let's see. None of you.
That's about the answer I expected. All right, well, everybody, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me and my mom talk. And you can tune in to all the other shows on the Journey Into Comics Network, journeyintocomics.com. You can find us on, I hope you're already following us on Facebook. If not, find us on Facebook. We're at Kids for Sale Pod, at Kid for Sale Pod. All the social medias. I don't update Twitter. I don't update Instagram. Just find me on Facebook because that's the only one I update. I post pictures of the kids regularly. You can comment on our pictures. You can comment on the episodes. You can email me at kidsforsalepodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear some feedback. I say this every episode, and nobody has emailed me still. Please give me some feedback. Let me know what you like hearing, what you don't like hearing. I want to make the show more enjoyable for everybody. So I hope this was a good episode 10 for everybody. And for anybody listening, if you have funny stories about your kids, come and be a guest on my show now. Now the floodgates are going to open of all the great guests I can have. And, ooh, everybody that wants to be a guest on my show. Who wrote that book, Fatherhood? Was that...
Was that Paul Reiser?
Paul Reiser, yeah. Fatherhood. Yeah, he's going to be my next guest. So tune in for that one. Paul Reiser.
Okay. Sure. Okay.
No, but for real, I would love to have some more guests on. If you want to be a guest on my show, email me or send me a message on Facebook, and we'll make it happen. Until next time, thank you for tuning in to Kids for Sale, and we'll catch you next time.